You're making too many movies, Nick. You're working too hard, Nick. The audience needs to miss you, Nick. Hello, I pay my bills. It's my job. I feed my family. That's what I do. I think I told the janitor, you're cleaning too many toilets.
I was hearing rumblings about it from friends of mine in the most unusual places. I would go to different concerts and people that were involved with the band would say, oh, there's a script that they're writing, a script about you. And I was like, yeah, that just sounds impossible and that's just not interesting to me whatsoever. And then I would hear about it more and more. It kept coming. The news of this screenplay about some version of me was in the air, and I kept saying to my agency, I'm just not interested. I have no interest in playing myself in a movie. It's just not something I'd want to do. Well, then I got a letter from Tom Gormican, the writer-director, and it was a nice letter. It was intelligent, and it looked like someone that actually had some knowledge about my filmography. And I thought, okay, that's interesting.
Basically, one of the things we wanted to make clear in this project is that it's not in any way making fun of Nicolas Cage. We wanted to make sure he knew that it was sort of an homage.
When we met Nick, it was this bizarre thing where it was like, we had worked on this script for a year and a half, and then to come face to face with him was like completely surreal.
I'm not unfamiliar with comedy. I've done a lot of theater and done comedies within that medium, but I'm not known as far as film and television for any comedy at all. It's been an incredible experience and opportunity to be able to show that part of myself or allow that part of myself to, in a way, kind of a truer part of myself to be exposed. Which will be really sad if I'm not good in this.
Nicolas Cage character in this movie is what I think everyone thinks Nicolas Cage might be, but he's not that at all. But it's what I think they think he is. When you put all his work together, watch everything, you would think maybe this is the kind of guy. And I mean, he's had his ups and downs in his life like any human being. My perception of him was that he's like a deep, compassionate, kind. He's really funny. He has a lot of really cool jokes. He tells the best stories. He's a really good storyteller. Also, he's very, very dedicated. When he decides he's gonna do something, that's what he's gonna do.
I started doing this when I was 15 professionally. And to say that after 42 years that this is something new in my life in cinema, and it is kind of extraordinary. I felt like I've done a little bit of everything already, but I've never done anything like this before, which meant that the experience was both exciting and terrifying.
We live in a world where especially celebrities, your identity is constantly litigated in the public sphere. And some people try to take the reins of that with social media and present a version of themselves. Nick does not. And so I said this, in a way, could be sort of a Dadaist, sort of piece of performance art where we get to weigh in on the narrative. And there's lots of things that are real from Nick's real life. And there are a lot of things in this movie that are just complete fiction. And so part of the interesting thing to me was people going, what is real? What is fake? Who actually is Nick?
This is really trippy. I started getting anxiety that they're actually calling me Nick and they're actually calling me Mr. Cage. And I'm like, wait, I'm not supposed to be, I'm always a character. I'm always playing a part. So it was terrifying and it was exciting, and I will probably never see the movie.
I've never worked with another actor who was so present, in every single take, even if the camera wasn't on him, he was completely present with the emotion, and it was so easy to play off him and made me feel like we were really having an authentic moment.
I mean, watching him work is, it's a ride and a half. he's like, sometimes he's so into the character that you can't sort of get through, and I get it and I understand it and I really respect it. And then sometimes when he'll allow himself to sort of laugh or be a bit silly, it's kind of gorgeous, you know. You kind of grab those moments.
Nick's like spanning so many different genres, doing every genre. This script changes genres 5 times during the course of filming. You know, I said to him, "You're the only person that we think could really pull this off."
It was a little bit like going down memory lane as far as it pertains to Nicky. Like, what was my energy like back then? And I would look at some old interviews. I remember I kept looking at the Wogan interview in England that was kind of, you know, spectacular for both good and bad reasons, and thinking, well, that's a good model in terms of the look. I mean, I remember at first Tom wanted it to be like Con Air. I go, but Con Air is Cameron Poe. That's not Nicky Coppola or Nicky Cage. That's Cameron Poe. This is what I was like. This is the actual personality. He goes, well, that's a little, you know, keyed up. I said, so let's find a way to relax it a little bit, but let's use that for the look and the energy. And I thought that was a good choice.
I mean, it's the ultimate Nick Cage movie, I think. Like, if you're a Nick Cage fan, it has literally everything that you could want. A lot of references, outfits from past movies, and it shows a completely different side of Nick. I think audiences in general will really like that it also shows a less glamorous side of the industry, where it shows how relationships can really be affected by having a career in the industry.
Sharon and Lily are really meant to ground the Nicolas Cage character in the film and understand that there's stakes beyond what is going to happen with my film career.
There's a real kind heart there, and you know, it's hard not to feel paternal when you're working in a situation. Plus, I've never had the bliss or the pleasure of you know, being blessed with both you know, sons and a daughter. I have 2 boys, and that's it. But that's good, because in the way they're telling this story, it supports the fictionalized account of Nicolas Cage. The narrative is unique. It goes through all kinds of twists and turns that are unusual for a studio film, a commercial studio film. This movie is taking risks.
Right after he won an Oscar for Leaving Las Vegas, he goes and does Con Air and Face Off. So we were trying to capture some of the spirit of those movies, but trying to keep it fun and trying to, you know, bring a sense of lightness and a sense of like joy to this. And part of that was entering through Javi's perspective into those scenes, where a guy who's a massive Nicolas Cage fan is starting to see this human being who starts off as depressed and down and out start to become the guy he always imagined him to be. So I tried to film it through the lens of Javi.
Javi adores Nick Cage above anyone else because he has taste. And obviously, there's so much about Nick's performances that are wild, you know, and also skillful, you know, spontaneous and original and... Except I mean it. And so I think that that's everything that Javi doesn't dare to be. He's too afraid to, so he lives vicariously through these performances, and I think it just inspires him to take risks, ultimately.
You know, I do things like, if I'm making a comedy, there are dramatic moments. If I'm making a drama, I try to make sure there's comedic moments. This is a comedy, but Tom really wanted to play up the drama. He wanted it to be sincere. He didn't want it to be overly broad. He didn't want it to be, you know, overly goofy, that, you know, if there's tears, there's real tears. And I subscribe to that. Whatever the fascination has been on the internet, the memification, whatever it is that because of a performance style that was intentionally chosen by myself to explore a dynamic in film performance that went into surrealism or the abstract or what have you, people in media have, and you attach that to a couple blips in one's personal life over 42 years, and suddenly that becomes the perception of an individual, when in fact, I find myself really rather boring. And I find myself really rather, to many people's disappointment, normal.
Whoa, Cage!
What? Oh, you don't have to do that. You guys can keep talking.
Well, I'll just finish with a role like this doesn't come along every day, and now I zipped it. I zipped it good.
How's your dad's anxiety over his career?
There's that word again, career.
I mean, his career is pretty much the only thing we talk about. That or he makes me watch old movies and then discuss them, which is really just him lecturing me for like 2 hours.
It's conversation.
It's conversation.
Right.